I would like to thank you for joining us. Love to thank all of our panelists for joining us tonight. And I'm going to hand it off to Kat Pierce to take it away from here. Thanks, Kat.
Thank you. So good evening, everyone. My name is Catherine Pierce. I'm one of our Assistant Deans of Admission. And with us, we have Andrew Wade, Graceann Chuck, and Mary Grace Zwilling, who are some of our recent alumni, and they are here to talk a little bit about their experiences at Catholic and answer any questions that you may have. As James said, feel free to put questions in the chat. You know, we want to utilize this next hour to get your questions answered. But we're going to go ahead and start. Just have our students, or not students, sorry, alumni, introduce themselves. So Andrew, I'm going to start with you.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Andrew Wade. I graduated from Catholic in 2019. I studied business management. I also played men's basketball there for 3 years. And currently, I work in basketball operations for Monumental Sports, specifically with the Washington Mystics of the WNBA. So I handle a lot of player development stuff, analytics and video work. And yeah, I've been doing that since I graduated, like I said, in 2019. Really enjoyed my time at Catholic. Actually, my younger brother still goes there today. If I had to say my favorite tradition on campus, I'd say the midnight breakfast. That was the first night of the school year, and then also during syllabus week as well. It's kind of like a nice decompressant through exam week. So yeah, like I said, graduated in 2019, business management, and happy to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. Graceann, if you want to go next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Graceann. I now live in Nashville. I graduated May 2020. I work as a nurse at Vanderbilt. At Catholic, I studied nursing, and I was a part of the Spanish for Healthcare certificate program. My favorite Catholic tradition would probably have to be either karaoke night in the Priz, or it would have to be homecoming.
Thanks, Graceann. And Mary Grace?
Hi, my name is Amelia Grace Zwilling. I graduated smack dab in the middle of Andrew and Graceann. So I graduated in December of 2019. I was a psychological and brain science major with a minor in peace and justice studies. I now work as the administrative assistant at the USCCB, or the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, in their Office of Marriage and Family Life. And as of about 2 weeks ago, I recently got admitted to graduate school at Hunter College in Manhattan for speech language pathology.
Awesome. Congratulations, and thank you. So just to get started, we're going to talk a little bit about life at Catholic. I know you mentioned your favorite traditions, but can you all talk a little bit about your favorite academic experience, whether it was a class, an internship, clinical, you know, whatever that may have been, but that really, you know, had a great impact on your experience at Catholic. And whoever wants to go first can.
I can get started. So I did 4 semesters of research through the psychology department in lunar psychophysics. So we studied sensation and perception on the moon. It was a really cool experience. I did 1 semester as a research assistant and then 3 semesters as a laboratory manager. So I helped to run the study. I helped to train research assistants once I was a lab manager, and I was really with the process from start to finish. And I got academic credit for it, which was really awesome. And it was just a really cool experience to see the other side of research and be part of a study, a multi-year study. And the director of the study now actually works at NASA. So she took her study and really went to the highest level with it, which is pretty cool. So that was definitely a really awesome experience and something that was very unique to Catholic. Nowhere else has ever done a 2-year study on lunar psychophysics. So that was something that I would not have had the opportunity to do anywhere else. And being able to be a research assistant and a lab manager as an undergraduate is super, super rare. So it was really a benefit of Catholic that I was able to do that, because normally those positions are reserved for graduate students. So being able to do that as a sophomore was absolutely amazing. So that was definitely my favorite experience.
My favorite experience would have to be, I was a part of the Spanish for Healthcare program. So we were able to learn like the language of Spanish, but through healthcare's eyes. So you learned like how to assess a patient in Spanish. You learned like the words for the body in Spanish and everything. And it was I want to say a 4-semester program, but I also went on a mission trip to Puerto Rico through the program itself. And it was such an amazing experience. And I was able to fully immerse myself in the language. And even now, like working at the hospital, I'm able to use my Spanish. And I'm even going back on the trip next year to Costa Rica through Catholic with Jennifer Maxwell, who is in charge of the program. But it's just amazing to be able to see what you learn in a classroom and then go somewhere different and completely immerse yourself. And I absolutely love the Spanish for Healthcare program, so I can't talk way more enough about it.
So one of my favorite parts of the academic experience at Catholic was actually the sports management specialization. So I was taking classes on sports law, sports marketing, and business in sports, finance in sports. So I knew I always wanted to work in some capacity in sports, but this was the first time that I really got to see the industry as a whole. And although I work in basketball operations now, I still think it helped me a lot to kind of get a full scope of what the industry is about. And I just really enjoyed those classes.
Awesome, thank you all. So kind of building off of that a little bit, I think one of Catholic's best parts is that obviously it's DC location, but our own campus that we have as well. So can you all talk a little bit about your favorite things to do in the city and how you utilize that during your time here?
So in the spring 2020, I think it was, the Nationals went to the World Series. So my favorite thing to do was go to Nats games, and I was actually there I was there for one of like the playoff games. So I love going in the city and going to like Nats games, going to Caps games, and like fully immersing myself in like the sports culture in the city. So that's definitely probably my favorite thing to do, among other things.
Yeah, I was just going to say, having the metro right on campus was a huge benefit because you're really only 10 or 15 minutes, if that, away from like the downtown part of the city. So really just anything, whether it's restaurants, like Grace-Ann said, going to a sports game at Capital One, just having those limitless kind of options right on the red line was a huge value. So anything from restaurants or going out to see a movie, things like that, just having that easy access was super valuable.
Yeah, my favorite time of year was the cherry blossoms. So when the National Mall, like all the cherry blossoms bloomed, and there were like different food trucks and like tents with all different stuff. So I loved the cherry blossom festival. It happened every year, right around this time, I think, like March, April. It was a really nice way to always like kind of wrap up a year, like spend a day outside with like a bunch of friends all down at the National Mall. Like we had picnics, or we just would go walking all around the monuments, and it was just such a cool experience to be around like the Jefferson Memorial with all these cherry blossoms. Like that was definitely very like DC thing to do, is just enjoy the monuments around those times, and especially the cherry blossoms because they're so beautiful. So it's definitely something to check out. If you're ever in DC around this time.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, we're just about a week away from it being peak bloom, which is awesome. So it's such a beautiful time of year to be on campus, and we're lucky that we have all the cherry blossom trees on campus too. So kind of going back to Catholic and the classroom experience, can you talk a little bit about how Catholic helped prepare you for your next steps postgraduate?
Yeah, so when I decided to do speech language pathology, I think it was my sophomore, my junior year that I decided that was the path that I wanted to take, and the classes really helped me figure that out because my neuroscience classes, I learned a lot about language development, and so that definitely helped. And then now preparing for graduate school, I know from looking at different grad schools and talking to professors at all different programs, I know that Catholic's academics, like my small class size really pushed me to be actively involved in my classes and, not afraid to raise my hand and ask questions, not afraid to go to office hours if I do have, a question that needs answered, or just really being actively engaged in my studies is something that I know has helped me in preparing for graduate school, because during all of my interviews, I'd ask what makes a student successful in your program, and almost every single one was, just taking initiative and being prepared and, asking for help when you need it, but just being actively engaged. And that was such a core part of my life at Catholic. Because my classes were so small that my professors knew me, so I was able to have really great relationships with them and develop the confidence to ask for help when I needed it, or to go meet with my professor outside of class and just take a real active approach to my academics. And I know that that will only continue to benefit me as I move into higher ed.
I'd say, especially with nursing, your schedule is basically, and your courses are kind of planned out for you for the most part. You do have some options, but some of the big things that really helped gear me for my career now would be like our simulation labs. So the nursing building has simulation labs with like these dummies that like bleed, breathe, sweat, talk to you, like they give birth, like they do the whole shebang. So we were able to first like work on them and get to talk to a patient without actually being with a real life human being. So you went from that, and then you went on to clinical experience where you were actually in the hospital, you were engaging with patients, you got so much hands-on experience, like seeing what a nurse actually does in a day, and comparing what I saw at Catholic in my clinicals, in my sim labs, to what I'm doing now. It's just so crazy how well Catholic has prepared me and how I've gotten really prepared for like my life now. And I know how time management plays such a key role even in my personal life and in my career. But the hands-on experience that you get, and even with COVID, halfway through our clinicals got kind of messed up, but Catholic still found a way to be able to make sure that we were able to get that hands-on experience and kind of navigate through what our career was going to be. So I definitely think that clinicals and sim labs had a huge portion of helping me where I am.
Yeah, I would say really just the Center for Career Services helped me so much. Not only did they help me identify potential job openings, but they would help me connect with alumni who also worked in sports, people that I admired in the industry. They would help me connect with. So really putting me in rooms that I couldn't have got to by myself, really. But aside from that, they were very thorough with the resume revision process. So that was a great experience for me to kind of dwindle down what I wanted to put in my resume before I even interviewed. And then as far as the interview process, just kind of putting me through mock interviews. So I would sit down with my advisor, and they would actually kind of put me through an actual interview. And that helped me gain confidence before I stepped in a real interview, because I was well prepared on the answers. I kind of knew which questions to ask them, even things like what to wear to the interview, stuff like that. So just the office for the Center for Career Services just kind of groomed me and helped me gain a more professional perspective before I actually went to interview.
Awesome. Thank you all. It's so awesome to hear about, how you had some kind of shaped you to where you are now. So we just got a great question. Are there similar amounts of hands-on experiences for all majors? So if you all can just kind of, obviously, your friends in different majors and programs, but just kind of reflect on, what, your friends have done as well, and talk about a couple of their experiences. Grace Ann, if you want to start, or Mary Grace, looks like you're ready. Feel free to go.
Yeah, so I had friends in all different majors. So like I had a friend who was an anthropology major, and one day they did like a mock field excavation on one of the lawns on campus to like really get a feel for what anthropology would be. And my roommates were musical theater majors, and they, were performing all the time, and even just doing small performances just to get really comfortable to do, bigger auditions. I had friends who were, just economics majors, and they were doing big economics. I don't really know anything about economics. So they did economics projects, but I don't know what goes into that, but I know that they did. It was really just, everyone had such a really great experience because the classes are so small that they were able to do really hands-on things across the board. I don't know anyone that had classes that were like over, like even those giant like freshman labs, they were like maybe 50 people, which, and then once you get through those like big freshman classes, everything goes down to like, 20 students. So everything is just so small and tight knit that every major is able to have those hands-on experiences.
Another great example, I think, would be social work. Social work majors, they go through in their last year, I believe. My roommate was a social work major, and she went through, I don't know like exactly the right term, but it was kind of like how clinical was, and she would go in twice a week, and she would have a full work day, like 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and she would work underneath of a social worker, and she worked at American Red Cross. So she was also able to have like the full experience of seeing like what her job would be like once she was out of college and things like that. And a lot of business majors as well, and especially politics majors, they'll get a lot of externships during the summer and even like during the work week. And that'll also have like great hands-on experience for them. And a lot of times you'll get that through your professors. So that's like what Mary Grace was saying earlier. It's so important to have such great relationships with your professors and actually put yourself out there to be able to get these opportunities.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm repeating, but just the small class size was just so important because you never really feel lost or feel overwhelmed. And I will say, for me personally, the majority of my friends were business majors. And they all shared a similar thought. We never had a class that was over 30 people. Professors are very hands-on, TAs are very hands-on as well. And then as far as internships or externships, most of my friends would complete those while taking classes as well. So there was plenty of opportunity for hands-on experience, especially being really right in DC. So plenty of opportunity for that.
Great, thank you. So Andrew, I'm actually going to direct the next question to you, but can you talk a little bit about being a student athlete, kind of your involvement with the men's basketball team, and just kind of your overall experience with that?
Sure, yeah. So like I said, I played men's basketball. I really enjoyed the experience just because, it felt like a true athletic family, whether it was the teammates or the coaches, but even like the alumni that would reach out and support. So it definitely felt larger than just the 15 people that were in the locker room. So that was a pretty important factor. And then we would actually get pretty good support on campus as well. So, I don't know if that's the same at all D3 schools, but there is definitely a sense of pride at Catholic for all sports. So, either going to a football game on the weekend or we're going to baseball games on the weekend, stuff like that. The support is definitely reciprocated. So it was a really cool experience to kind of have the full student body, or at least what it felt like, support you guys on the court.
Andrew, I'm just going to hop in with a question for you as well, because you had a really cool start to kind of your career, while you were still an undergraduate, but kind of linking up with a current NBA player at the time.
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to work in basketball. So I actually did not play my senior year, just to work on my craft and to grow my network, essentially. And this was a big risk because, obviously I love basketball because I still work in it. And so through connections and just kind of the network, I ended up working with, who at the time played for the Knicks, Alonzo Trier, basically just doing his nightly film breakdowns. And I was still a senior at the time. I didn't have a job yet. So I was really just working to kind of hone my craft and see where it got me. But yeah, while I was a senior, I was doing a lot of film work for a bunch of players. Most people didn't respond to it, but Alonzo Trier, lucky enough, was one of the guys that did respond to me. So,
and for all our attendees, So there's another colleague in our office, Tom. So he and I can't wait for Andrew to become like a GM of an NBA team so that he can then hire us one day. So that's really going to be a lot of fun. So I look forward to that. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew. So Grace and Mary Grace, I know that you both participated in study abroad options. So if you can both talk a little bit about those experiences, where you went, what you did, especially Grace Ann, I know obviously for nursing, it can be tough to study abroad, but you had the opportunity to do that. So if you can just talk about that experience, Grace Ann, I'll start with you, and then Mary Grace, if you want to follow, that would be awesome.
So I had an amazing study abroad experience. With nursing, it is hard, but they do carve out the time for you. So you can either do it, they may have changed it from when I went, but I went my sophomore spring. That way you can go before you get into your clinicals, before you get into your sim labs, and you can get like a lot of your prerequisite classes done. So sophomore spring is when we went. They may have changed it to sophomore fall. I'm not exactly sure. But I went to Rome for 2.5 weeks, and we took one of the classes there. That way in Australia, I only took 3 other classes. So I went to Melbourne, Australia. I was there from, I think, February to June. So it was a while, but it was such an amazing experience. It was me and I want to say like 14 other girls. So there was a good amount of us. But it was just such an amazing experience because we went to Rome first and we met Australians that lived in Australia, and we actually became really good friends with them, and we got to travel with them, and they got to give us the inside scoop of everything that happened in all the major cities. And you still took your classes, you still were on time for everything. My graduation date didn't get delayed or anything. And then I went to, or no, I didn't go there. The other study abroad program for nurses can be in the summer. So you can go to Dublin, and they offer for you to take our nursing research class, and you work in the research labs. You do a lot of hands-on experience, and you can either go for a 4 or an 8-week program. So either way, you're still staying on track. You're getting kind of more openings for more classes that you can take if you're interested in other classes at Catholic. But I absolutely loved my experience. Definitely recommend it. It is possible. Just you have to check with CUA abroad to kind of see what'll work out for you.
Then I actually have a question for Mary Grace as well. You're obviously getting involved in speech language pathology, really unique program. How did you, kind of gain insight and interest into that program?
Yeah, so I first heard about speech language pathology in my brain and behavior class, which was a required class for psych and brain sciences, because we talked about language development. And from there, I just fell in love with language and language development, language learning, language disorders. So then I took cognitive psychology and cognitive neuroscience my junior year, and that was a whole unit on language. And so I talked to my professor and said, like, this is something I'm so interested in. Where do I go from here? And she recommended that I look into speech pathology, which is what I did. And I ended up shadowing 2 speech pathologists that work in the DC area. I shadowed one who worked at St. Coletta, which is a school for children with intellectual disabilities, and one who did private clients for articulation therapy. So being in DC really helped because I had so many opportunities to shadow. And so from there, I just absolutely fell in love with it. So my senior year, I also took American Sign Language and Deaf Studies, which is a really awesome class. And the professor that I had, he's deaf. So it was really cool to learn about his experiences with speech pathology. And we would talk a lot about the speech training that he had when he was young, and learning about how the field has grown since then. So it was, even though we don't have like a speech pathology major at Catholic, I was still able to pursue that passion of mine through other avenues that really prepared me to go into that for graduate school.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. And then Mary Grace, if you also just want to talk a little bit about your study abroad experience. Also, just 2 quick notes before you do that. Every major is able to study abroad at Catholic, which is great. And I know Grace Ann mentioned the Rome program that she did. We actually in April will do a live from our Rome center, which is really cool. So you'll have the opportunity, if you want to sit in on that, to do that too.
Yeah, So I studied abroad during the summer between my junior and senior year. I went to Ireland for 5 weeks through the Irish Summer Institute. So I took 2 classes over 5 weeks, and we went to 3 different cities in Ireland. So the first 2 weeks we were in Cork. The third week we were in Ballyferriter, which is a super rural town in the middle of nowhere. And then the last 2 weeks we were in Dublin. So it was really awesome to be able to take 2 classes. I decided that a full semester just wasn't right for me because I really wanted to graduate a semester early, which I did. So I didn't feel like a full semester was right for me, but I still really wanted to study abroad. So being able to go over the summer was perfect. And I was able to take 2 electives courses, which was great, so that I was able to graduate early. It pushed me even closer to graduation. If I didn't study abroad during the summer, I would have, been further behind. So it was even like better for me to go, which was awesome. And I loved my classes. I studied abroad with 5 other people during the summer, so we were really close. We traveled together, weekends off. We went to Scotland, or we went to Galway in Ireland. So over the 5 weeks, I saw, I think it was like 15 cities, which is crazy. My friend studied abroad in Ireland for a full semester, and I saw just as much of Ireland as he did, which was crazy to think because I was only there for 5 weeks versus like a full semester, but it was the perfect program for me. So it really worked out that I was able to go not on a full semester, but I was still able to study abroad, which was just an amazing experience.
Awesome, thank you. So our next question is, can you describe if the transition from being a high school senior to a college freshman was easy, and was it easy making friends freshman year?
I can talk about this because I did orientation. So I was an orientation advisor for my junior and my senior year, and I absolutely loved it. So orientation is an amazing, amazing program, amazing way to make friends. There are so many different events during the 4 days that really help you to transition and to get used to Catholic and to just get you involved in your class and in your community. And then my freshman year, I loved my orientation, and then was able to make a lot of friends with girls in my residence hall. That was something that I really found is a great way to make a community and really just find friends that I would have all 4 years. I actually still live with girls that lived in my hallway freshman year of college, like 5 years later. So it's really awesome to just make those long lasting friendships right away. And I think also a huge thing was our learning community classes was a great way to transition to, because your learning community classes are 4 classes that you take over the course of your freshman year. And you take all of those classes with the same group of about 15 students. So that was a really great way to transition, because it was similar to high school in that like you had classes with the same people and you were walking to class together and you saw them every day, but it was at a college level. So it was a really great in between that helped me to adjust to college versus high school. And orientation was a great way to get used to the campus and get used to my new home and meet people and just have a blast. And then being able to do that again as a junior and senior and help the incoming class as a freshman was absolutely one of my favorite things I did at Catholic, was being an orientation advisor.
I will say my experience was a little different being a student athlete, because when I came to Catholic, I already had a group of 15 people that I was somewhat close with already. But like MG said, the learning communities, or the LCs, were extremely helpful because that's 10 or 15 people that you're with for the whole year. And so as far as knowing people outside of sports, that was extremely helpful. I actually ended up living with one of the people in my LC, and I'm still in contact with a good amount of them to this day. But the orientation part as well was super important, because it helped me familiarize myself with the campus and getting around DC, and just kind of understanding all that the campus had to offer.
Thanks. Gracie-Ann, anything you want to add? Or
I think orientation was a really great part. I'd have to say with nursing, you are really like grouped in with your nursing majors, but I also had like friends from home that ended up going to Catholic. So through them, I was able to meet new people, and even through like any of the events, like campus ministry events or any kind of events that we had on campus, like it was very easy to meet new people. Everyone at Catholic was just like it's so cliche, but I remember like walking down on campus and you would just like see so many people walking to class that you knew, and everyone would just be like, oh, hey, how are you doing? And it's just like a very friendly campus community. And even like when I worked at admissions, the funny thing was when I first started my job, I didn't know any other person that I worked with in the office. And then we all became great friends. Then whenever we saw the transition itself, I think it's hard at first just because it's your first time away from home, but Catholic is just such a great place to be, and you feel that sense of community everywhere you go and wherever you are.
Awesome, thank you. And I think something too I always tell students to remember is that you're all in the same boat of being somewhere new. So the nice thing is that you're all going through that together, which is great. So next question, can you guys talk a little bit about your some of the opportunities that campus ministry offers here at Catholic? Mary Grace, if you want to get started with that one.
Yeah, so campus ministry is such a great presence on campus. Freshman year, they host Friday night events every single Friday night. So there's a different fun event. I know my freshman year, they had ice skating. They took students to a nationals game for like $5, which is super cheap. We did like a murder mystery night in the house, which is a part of campus ministry. And it was just so fun. There was all different events. Every single Friday night, they had different events, which was such an awesome way to make friends. And then campus ministry also has resident ministers, which are upperclassmen students that either live in the residence halls or in the house that are just there to be an extra presence on campus. So they're kind of like an RA, but a little different. So they're just there to be just an extra support and help through campus ministry. So that's another great opportunity to get to know campus ministry through your resident minister. And then, when you're an upperclassman student, to become a resident minister, if that's something, that you're interested in doing. And there's just different service events all the time. I went to a service event or a service site at SUM, which is So Others Might Eat, a soup kitchen, many times while I was a Catholic. So we would go at 6:45 in the morning and serve breakfast, and then we'd be back before our 9:40 classes, which was really awesome. And there's just tons of different service. There's tons of different ways to get involved, both like super fun. Well, they're all super fun, but different like activities on Friday nights or service, or through resident ministry, or going to all the different daily masses on campus. They're just an awesome presence and a really great way to build community.
To add to that, I think one of the greatest things about campus ministry and Catholic as a whole is Wednesday nights praise and worship adoration. So every Wednesday night they have this. It's at, I want to say 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, but it's like late at night, and it's just like such a beautiful service, and it's in Caldwell Chapel, so the oldest chapel we have on campus. And they have like bongos playing. Sorry guys, there's a car revving outside. But they have like bongos, they have like guitars, they have people singing, and like everyone in the chapel sings, and it's a really beautiful like way to kind of like be in the middle of your week and kind of like take the stressors from the first half of your week and prep yourself for that second half to get through. But praise and worship adoration is one of my favorite things that they did at Catholic. And afterwards you would go down to the cellar and they would have like a different themed night. So like one night they had like a Kendrick Lamar theme night, one night they had like a dinosaur theme night, and that was with all the resident ministers. So you got to get to know them, you got to get to know other people that were there at praise and worship adoration. But definitely one of my favorite things that campus ministry does.
Awesome. Thanks, Grace Ann. So our next question is actually for you, Andrew. What was your favorite memory of being an athlete at Catholic?
Great question. First thing that comes to mind would be winning the landmark conference championship freshman year. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. But really just, we also would travel, which was pretty cool, and play a Division I team every year. So we played Maryland one year, we traveled to Notre Dame another year. So just that experience was super cool, but really it was, the best memories were just being in the hotel with the team or going out to eat with the team, things like that. The weekend games at the Doof, where the place would be pretty packed for conference play. So, but I'd say just like the camaraderie and togetherness that we kind of had as a student body and as a team would be the overall best experience.
Awesome, thank you. So next question, can you all talk a little bit about your favorite part of the Catholic University community as a whole, and how that contributed to your overall experience here? Mary Grace, if you want to kick it off.
Yeah, there's so much, like the community of Catholic is just like, that's what made it feel like such a home. So I'm trying to think of like one example, but I feel like my freshman year, a good example of this, my whole residence hall, and then so I lived in the honors housing, so I was in the honors program. So the girls' honors dorm and the boys' honors dorm decided to do a chops competition my freshman year. So we all went to like the grocery store a couple blocks away and bought like the most random ingredients we could find. And then we nominated a couple people to cook a meal out of everything that we bought. And we just sat in the lounge and laughed all night about the stuff that we were doing. And it's just like stuff like that it's just such a home, and everyone is just so ready to get to know each other. And just, even if it's not someone that you know super well, like you'll be able to laugh with them and talk to them. Catholic, I always like to say, has like a 1 degree of separation. So even if it's someone that you don't know, you definitely know someone in common. There's never more than one person. Like when I started working in admissions, I did not know Andrew or Grace Ann, but we all knew people in common and were able to find connections. So it really is just such a community in that sense, is that you all know the same people. And even if you don't know everyone, you know someone who knows everyone. And it's just such a homey environment. And, I know that if I saw anyone from Catholic, out on the street somewhere, I'd be able to stop and have a conversation with them, for the rest of my life, because it's just such a home away from home.
I think like Mary Grace said, like it's just so hard to find one perfect example, because it's just like, it just feels like a family. Like I just remember like walking on campus, like I just felt like so at home. And like I said earlier, you'd walk around and you'd see so many people that you're familiar with. So that made it feel more like a home. But the community at Catholic itself is just, it's so amazing, because you could be one major, you could be another major, and you kind of get to know everyone while you're there. It's a small school, so you get to see familiar faces all the time. And if you don't know that familiar face, you can walk up to them and say, hey, I see you as I'm walking to my LC every morning. Like, what's your name? And people will like be very receptive to that. But I just think being there on campus, it's just so different. And like seeing the Basilica right there, it just like Blue Dome is home. So it's just such a beautiful community there. And it's crazy, and I can't wait to come back and see it again.
Yeah, it definitely is too difficult to pinpoint one thing specifically, but I would say that just the overall feel of the togetherness of the student body. It does feel like we are tucked away on this campus in Northeast DC, and it's just a cool feeling that like it's a big enough school to where you're not going to see the same people every day. But you may well be passing them. It's kind of hard to describe, but it is a tight-knit community, and there definitely is like a sense of pride going to Catholic. And like MG said, if I were to see a Catholic alum today, I would have no problem going up to them and just striking up a conversation. And I'm sure we would find many similarities. So there definitely is a sense of pride, and just even having the support of the alumni network is super cool. So it never really feels like you're too far away from the Catholic community.
Thank you. So next question is for Mary Grace. Can you just talk a little bit about your experiences being in the honors program?
Yeah, absolutely. So my freshman year, I lived in the honors dorm. I was in the honors program. So my LC classes, or those learning community classes we were talking about, so I took that with just honors students. So that was a really great way to get to know the people also in the honors program. So they were people that were living in my dorm or in the boys honors dorm. And I had early registration for all of my classes, which was huge. So I registered before everyone else. So not that there really is ever any issue with getting the classes that you want, but being able to have first pick was definitely really, really great. And they were just different honors events. So every single week there was a different faculty talk or little get together. We had Christmas dinners and spring dinners where we'd all get together and just hear about all the different things people did in the honors program. There were trips to the Library of Congress or hiking or really anything. There's just a really great community within the community of Catholic. And then also I completed an honors track. So if you're in the honors program, you will complete an honors track throughout your 4 years. So mine was in the liberal studies. So I took a bunch of different classes. I didn't just do philosophy or theology. I decided to do a wide range of them. So some of them were, my chemistry classes I took as an honors class. So it was even smaller than, instead of 30 people, there were 15 people. And then some of my classes were more humanities based. So I took a Renaissance literature class. I took a philosophy class. So I think it was 5 classes throughout my time that were specifically honors. And then I graduated with the honors degree. And Dr. Paxton, who's the head of the honors program, is amazing. You meet with her once a year just to, get updates on how your honors track is going, if you have any questions. But she will go to the ends of the earth for any single honor student. It is amazing. She is so great. And she puts on all the events. And there's an honors lounge. So you can go there and study or just hang out. I'd have study groups there with some of my friends. There's always snacks and a printer, which is really nice. There's free printing all over campus, but having a printer that's only used by honors is nice because you never have to wait to see, if someone else is already using it. So that was really, really nice too. And it was just a really great community of people. And living in the honors dorm my freshman year was amazing. It was such a great way to meet people and just really have that amazing sense of community in that residence hall.
Thank you. So next question, can you all talk a little bit about how you found the academic and basically work-life balance while you were a student at Catholic? Grace Ann, do you want to start?
Sure. So it's definitely really hard to kind of balance everything, but I think your learning communities, and especially during orientation, it is drilled into you to think about time management. I feel like my freshman year, a lot of the time I was so focused on studying and I felt like I was stressed out all the time. But once you kind of take it back and you realize you can't be a person that studies for 24 hours in a day. You can't just you have to be able to go and have fun and explore the city and get to know people and things like that. Time management really played a key role in the beginning of my career, learning all of those things, and especially in the end of my career, because I was juggling clinicals, I was juggling sim labs, classes. I had 2 part-time jobs. So time management was such a key role. It definitely is possible. I'm here today saying that. I still had a social life. I was still able to go and do brunch in the city and go to Nats games. So it's definitely focusing on what is important right now and figuring out how to perfectly manage your time and get all of your things done and make your things done well. But it's definitely great to use that time management skills that you've learned earlier on in your career and keep it going until you can't stop.
Okay. I would just say time management was the biggest thing, and kind of finding a routine, especially being a student athlete. We get our practice schedules, let's say a week in advance, and you can kind of pencil in, okay, this is the time I'm going to relax. This is the time I'll study. So really finding a routine was pretty important to me. And then something I loved was how big Catholic's campus was. And so it kind of allowed me to find my own little study spots on campus, where I could just go and kind of zone in by myself. And that was a huge benefit because I never felt like I was struggling to find space to get my work done or it was overcrowded or anything like that. I could always kind of go, whether it was the library or in the Priz, or just like in a random classroom building. There was plenty of space to just kind of go and kind of lock myself in a room for an hour and a half and get my work done. So that was definitely a huge benefit.
I think also for me, obviously there is like work-life balance, and you want to have a social life while also maintaining your academics. But honestly, for me, some of my favorite memories of just like day-to-day life on Catholic was studying with my friends. And like my friends on Sunday afternoons would like go to a classroom in Caldwell Hall, which is one of our like academic buildings on campus, and we would just set up camp in that classroom. And like every hour we would put on a music video on like the projector in the classroom, and we would all have a dance party, and then like we would just put on a Yule log or something else and just like hang out in the classrooms, all getting our work done. And it was just really a great time for us to have that work-life balance together, because like we all had work to get done, and we would focus for like an hour, and then we would just like get up and dance and go like hang out, and we run to the Priz to get food and then come back. And it was just like things like that of everyone kind of being in the same boat of trying to have a work-life balance and keeping each other company during those times was just some of my favorite memories. And also, I know I've said it like a million times, but the classes are small and the professors know you. So if you are really like overwhelmed during a time and like you have several exams and you just like are super stressed, you can always go talk to your professors because they do know you and they're so understanding. So, if it ever does get too much, they were always there to help. I remember during my freshman year, I had to go home for a family emergency, and my theology professor and my philosophy professor both gave me like 2-week extensions on all of my assignments. So, if things do come up, the professors are so understanding because they do know you. So there just like is that comfort too. So there is, obviously college, you have to have, you have to get your work done, but there are so many ways to make that fun, and still have a good time with your friends. Dancing around in Caldwell is some of my favorite memories of all of college.
Thank you. So quick question too, can you just explain what an LC is?
Yeah, so so LCs are the learning community classes. So it's 4 classes that you take over the course of your freshman year. It's 2 philosophy, 1 theology, and 1 English class. And you take those classes with the same group of, I think it's 15 students. And so it's just all across your freshman year, a really great transitional class to take. And everyone takes the same classes. So everyone will be in the same ones, but you just break it up into those smaller learning communities or LCs.
Thank you. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes left. So we have a couple more questions to answer. But the first one that I want to ask is just, what's the ultimate reason that you chose to attend Catholic? Andrew, do you want to start?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to attend Catholic because I wanted to go to school in a big city. And so I actually am from Florida, and so I kind of knew I wanted to get out of state. So when I started to narrow down my options, Catholic just offered the most of really any school. And I knew I wanted to go to school in a big city because I knew I wanted to work in sports. And so I just knew, as far as internships goes and connections, that this would be really the place to do it. And then you added in having the metro right on campus, it all just made sense. And also, Catholic is rare in that we're right in DC, but there's also so much green space. So it feels like you're on a true campus and not really in the mix of a big city without any campus space. So kind of the ability to have our own little campus, it's not little, but our own campus space was super valuable. So just kind of all those reasons all together.
I chose Catholic because I'm originally from the Virginia area. So I actually graduated from high school at not Catholic, but at the Basilica. And I just remember, like, whenever I was there, I kind of felt like I was at home. but I also knew that there was so many great opportunities. The nursing program is absolutely stellar. And we have so many different opportunities through that, working at the hospitals, and you get to experience so many things in the program itself. But not only that, like I do really believe in my Catholic faith, and I like to be a part of campus ministry and do service. And the basilica being there being so like 10 chapels on campus that you can go to mass multiple times a day if you'd like. I just thought, I knew that it had everything I wanted. I wanted to study abroad. I wanted to get a great externship. I wanted to immerse myself in my Spanish, and it kind of ticked all my boxes. I was close enough to home. I was in a big city. I had the metro easily accessible, didn't need a car. So I think being at Catholic was just such a great decision for the city aspect, for the academic aspect, and even just for the small class sizes and getting to know your professors really well.
Yeah, I went to a small Catholic high school, so that was definitely something that was very familiar and comfortable for me. So I felt right at home when I visited Catholic, and I just really fell in love with the community and the fact that, you know, I was walking around campus as a senior in high school, and people were smiling at me and saying, "Hi, how are you?" Even though they literally did not know me because I didn't go to the school. But it was just really showed that it was such a welcoming community because they, you know, were stopping to talk to someone that they did not even know. And I also love the fact that it was in a city. I am from Long Island, so I grew up, you know, 20 minutes outside of Manhattan. So I could not imagine being in the middle of nowhere, but I also did not want a city campus. So being able to, you know, as Andrew said, and Grace Ann said, being in a city, but still having campus to call home, and, you know, big green lawns and the basilica and gorgeous buildings. It was just such a amazing balance of everything that I was looking for, and being able to do research, study abroad, be in orientation, work in admissions, you know, do everything that I wanted to do and do it all well, and feel supported in all of that was such an amazing experience, and definitely it's just such a benefit of going to Catholic. And even, you know, I feel like working when you're in college is, you know, not always the most fun thing, but working in admissions, like I just made some of my best friends. Like I chose to stay for a summer to work in admissions more because I just like loved it and made some of my absolute best friends that I still talk to every single day. So there's just like so much joy at Catholic that there just like isn't other places. Like everyone you meet can be your best friend, and like they are your best friends.
Guys, this has been awesome. So before we head out, I got a weird light thing going on. There we go. That's better. Before we go, we have a lot of admitted students who are joining us tonight. If you would kind of go through and thinking about, you know, you as a senior in high school and making that final choice to attend Catholic and kind of what they're going through now, any advice that you would share with them and kind of making that final college decision? Andrew, let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah, my best advice would be to consider where you want to be in 5 years after graduating, or 10 years, or 15 years, because that's really what it was about for me. I knew the network and the alumni network that Catholic had. I knew the opportunities that were here in DC. So when I thought about my future self, I knew that Catholic would be the best option.
How about you, Grace Ann?
I think what's really important is whenever you do go and visit a school, and even if you're not able to visit with everything in COVID related, just definitely, I'd say, immerse yourself in the whole experience, take everything in, listen to what everyone's saying, and ask the hard questions. Don't feel uncomfortable asking those questions, because at the end of the day, like, this is the school you're going to be at for the next 4 years. And definitely take into account where your school is going to be located. So Catholics in DC, it was an easy choice for me, just because there's so many, like Andrew said, like there's so many opportunities, whether it be for jobs or whether it be for extracurricular activities. Like, it's very important because it's going to be where you will be for the next 4 years. So just take everything in, think it through, but I mean, you guys can do it.
Yeah, I think like trust yourself and trust that you know yourself better than anyone. So definitely trust your gut. I got such a good feeling when I was at Catholic that I couldn't put into words, and I just trusted that feeling. And it was one of the best decisions I have ever made. And if you don't feel like you can trust yourself, like trust your mom. My mom told me at the start of my junior year of high school that I was going to end up a Catholic because she visited here with my brother, who's 2 years older than me. And at that time, I had literally never even heard of Catholic. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not going to the school. And lo and behold, 2 open houses later, I committed to Catholic. So I trusted myself, but I also trusted the people around me that also knew me. So yeah, just like, yourself. You can figure out what's best for you and your family, no matter what your situation is, but just trusting your gut and believing that you are going to make the right decision for yourself, because it is an important decision. So just trusting your gut. Yeah.
Well, guys, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. I wish they were all a little less successful, because I would try to hire them in our office. So for all of those of you parents and admitted students who joined us tonight, thank you so much. To the students out there, congratulations on your admission. I know that you have had, the last year has been really hard in terms of the college search, in terms of, virtual school at home or a hybrid situation and back and forth. So if you do have questions, if you need anything, any last minute questions or advice, please do not hesitate to reach out. Right on our website, you can find the counselor who read your application and works with students in your area. If you have questions that you would like us to direct to any faculty members or this panel in particular, please let us know. We would be happy to help. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, and good luck with everything. Bye, guys.